On today's episode, a piece of wood gets shortened, I use a staple gun, and I lay down on the job.
I am so excited. This is awesome.
Hey, so my mid-century chairs are finally done, which I'm pretty excited about that. I've got those out of the shop, they're back from upholstery, and they're in the living room now, so that's a big gain. I've got the kitchen cabinets are still stacked up here. I've got them like all piled up in the corner, but they're out of my way. And we're moving on to bigger and better things. The solar panel, I haven't done that yet, and there's a reason why. It's cold. It's 5 degrees out there today. It's going to be a while before that snow is gone enough to get up on that roof and fix all that. But at least I can move on with the kayak. So pretty cool. So I have the sawhorses cut down now to a much better height. I mean, this is going to be a lot easier to work on from here, you know, sanding and all the other stuff you're doing, to have it just a little bit lower. So I've got it, I don't know, it's about elbow height. This thing is right now, the base of this thing is about 20 inches, 20 and a half inches down here. And then that strong back on top gives you a pretty good height, depending on how tall you are. You know, I'm like 5'9", so you may want to go taller or shorter based on that. So if you're following along in the cookbook here, we're now up to step 12, laminating the stems. So my epoxy has not shown up yet. I've got materials left over from another project that I'm going to use just to get this part started. But you're going to need the two parts, the resin and the hardener, and then you need this silica, colloidal, anyway, whatever this stuff is. It's thickener. It's going to make the epoxy thick enough so you can kind of like putty it on. It's going to make it like a peanut butter consistency. Yeah, so then let's look over what we've got down here. Right here I've got 2 stacks of the cedar. These are the short pieces. And I've got the white cedar here, which is going to be for the inside of the boat. They call that the inside stem. And then we've got the, what do you call this stuff? Walnut. It's going to be the outside. So I'm doing walnut decorations on everything, or not decorations, but highlights. So basically, if we look over on the stern form here, what we're going to do, we're gonna coat this or put some tape on here so nothing will stick to it. But we'll put the first piece on, put epoxy on here. And what you do is you put a thin layer of just regular epoxy on there to let that soak in the pores of the wood. Then we'll put the thickened stuff on after. So I'll do a layer of thin and a little layer of thick on each one of these. And we're just gonna put all these back together on top of here. And once you get them all on, you're just going to take them with clamps, and we'll put a clamp in here. Just clamp and lay away as we go, and just keep them lined up as we go here. And those will just bend over, and just like that, and we'll let them cure. Takes a while. You might be wondering, how many clamps are you going to need for this whole project? The answer is a whole lot. So I went on Amazon and bought a whole bunch of these spring clamps. They're actually pretty nice quality. I was surprised. If you look over on the wall here, you see the rest of them. I've got 40 of them, and I think I'm probably going to need that many as I go. It's really handy to have a lot of clamps when you're doing this. So plan ahead and get those. Let's see, let me set you down here for a second. I'm going to show you where these parts are going to go on here. So basically that's gonna fit right on the end of the boat like that. So we got one for the bow, one for the stern. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, you can kind of see it. There we go. That's better. And this will get, once I get those laminations done, this will get screwed on and then fastened right in place right here. And what happens is that piece that we just had will be tacked in place. We're going to put some screws into it just to temporarily hold it down. And then as those boards come around, as the sideboards of the boat come around, this gives them something to attach to on that end. So we'll get to that point later, but yeah, pretty simple, I think. We'll find out, I guess. I'll show you as I go here. Okay, so I've got all the inside stem pieces laid out here now. I've coated the underside with the thin, and then I coated the top side with the thin, except for these two. These two on the ends are going to be the top and bottom, and they're only going to get the epoxy out on one side. So that's what I'm doing right here. Is I've got this stuff now is to a thickness. I don't know. It's not really peanut butter, but anyway. We're going to put that on. And what this stuff do, with the thickener is helping is fill any voids, basically. You want to make sure that when you glue all this together, it's going to be solid with no air pockets or anything in between. So that's just helping to do that. Okay, so I've got all those set up now. And now what I'm going to do, hopefully this will work out well. Yeah, we're just going to stack them up. So I'm going to have a bottom and a top, obviously, and the rest are just going to stack on top of each other. And it's going to make a huge mess. You can see I put some plastic down on the countertop here on the work surface here too, just to help keep everything from sticking. It's disposable. I will mention too, when I talked to Joe at Redfish Kayaks about this part of it, he said, because this is ultimately, all these parts will be covered with epoxy and fiberglass eventually, these really could be just glued up with type 2 wood glue, waterproof wood glue and outdoor wood glue, type bond type 2. But, oops, I don't know why I'm doing so many of these either. I gotta split them in half. I got too many put together here. Anyway, he said because they're going to be coated that way, it's not a huge deal if you wanted to just use the wood glue. I find the epoxy a little easier because it gives me a little more working time, a little open time to work with. So that's the only reason I'm doing this. So I need an even number on both of them here. I'm just going to keep sticking them up like that. Put this outside piece on here, outside piece on here, and now I'll just divide them up. Just like that. So one of them will go on one, and the other will go on the other. And they're plenty long. You've got enough to work with here. So you're not going to have a problem that way. And yes, you're going to mess up all of your clamps as you go here. They're all going to get glue on them. You don't have to be real fussy about alignment here, just for the reason of when you're done, this is all going to get shaped into kind of a V shape anyway. You're going to have to make it pointy like the end of the boat, right? So that when the wood comes in, it'll have something smooth to land on. So this will be shaped down to a V. Most of this material that you're putting on here will be actually removed at some point. So that gives me that. Looks pretty good. Now I'm going to do something at these ends, because this is going to have to be held down a little bit somehow on there. I haven't figured that part out yet. Might just clamp that to the table with some watchdog. Something like that will just kind of hold it in place. Yeah, that holds it right tight, so awesome. Just got to do the other one. Okay, it is morning now. This inside stem is now cured, and I'm getting ready to do the outside stem. I did find one little problem here as I'm pulling these clamps off. When I go to put this next outside stem layer on here, these clamps really just barely fit, and they're going to be on a weird angle. They're going to pull it funny. So I got to come up with a new method of doing that. I'm thinking I might just tie it with some like string around there just to keep it in. It doesn't take a whole lot of pressure to keep it there, so that may be what I try. Okay, I kind of figured out what to do on this now. I've got the tape put back on here, the packaging tape, so the outside stems will not stick to the new. And what I figured out with these clamps is if I put one, barely get it on here on the inside, and another one right there, that balances the pressure on it, so that works pretty well. And I only need just a couple spots because as I bend this over, I hold it right here, there's a little gap right here, so I'll put one more right here, but everything else looks tight. So one on the end, one here, and one here. Should work pretty well. So I'm going to go through that same whole process again. What I did before is just putting on that the thin layer of resin, and then the thick layer of resin, and then we'll clamp them in here. All right, everything seems to be holding pretty well all the way through. As you clamp these things, you get just a lot of the epoxy, oozing out everywhere. It's just dripping. So make sure you cover your floor if you value your floor. And you just want to go along and just kind of wipe up all the extra as you go. And that'll keep, it from gluing itself to something else that you don't want it to glue itself to, like your workbench. Yeah, got a bunch right there. But this stuff, I've got the slow cure hardener, the hardener's I think it's like a 10-hour cure. So it drips for a long, long time. So just make sure you get all that cleaned up. It will make a lot less of a mess on your floor as you wipe this down. But that's just got to sit and cure for a while now. And we'll come back probably tonight and delaminate these. Oh, one thing to point out. We did the inside stem first, and then we did the outside stem. You have to do that in that order. If you don't want to take that inside stem off there and then put the first one, put the outside on top of there, because your radius won't be right. These are made to basically mate together. One's on the inside of the boat, one's on the outside of the boat. They need to be that close where they can fit together like that. So don't be tempted to take the first one off and then use that same form over again, because it won't work. So while we're waiting for that epoxy to cure on these stems, I thought I'd take some time and get all these covered up. Again, you could use packaging tape on here. There's a lot of different things. I just figured I'd use this because I had a bunch of it sitting around, so it's just regular blue painter's tape. But if you don't protect these like this, you might end up having these be permanently glued to your boat, because you're gonna be gluing all those strips on as you work your way up, and you'll undoubtedly get some on here. If nothing else, it'll prevent you or keep you from having to sand a bunch of this particle board off of your boat on the inside, which is really tough to do. So just go through and cover everything up. Make sure it's sealed. You'll be much happier. All right, well, it looks like everything is cured up. I didn't come back in the evening. This is the next morning now. I was a couch potato yesterday, so I never came back. But now we know it's definitely cured. Everything's set to go, so let's pull these off here and see what happens. All these little feet on these things just stick like crazy to everything, so kind of a pain every time you pull them off, but that's okay. At least the epoxy doesn't really stick to them too much. Peels off easily. Oh, I can hear it. It's trying to separate just a little bit as we go, which is just what I want. I don't want these two pieces stuck together, so let's see what happens. Oh yeah. I glued it to my workbench a little bit here because it dripped. That's gonna be fun. But all that just peels off, so that worked pretty well. See if the other piece comes off just as happily. Oh yeah, just like that. Okay. Neat. Can't argue with that. Okay, we're at the bow of the boat here now. So this is the front, obviously, bow, front. And what I've done is I've taken that piece that's going to mount here, right? And I've just temporarily clamped this on there, so it's just loose, but it's just clamped in place, so I know the height of it. Because basically what we have to do is clamp this piece on so the top of this lines up with that. So obviously you can't go on top of it, it's got to go here, like so, just right there. So what I'm going to do is I'll mark this and cut this off, and we'll put some screws in here, and that will hold this all in place. This end of also I'll get captured. I'm just going to let this end run wild though, because we can cut that off later. Fine tune that later as we go when we get to the front there. So that's where I'm going to start. Okay, so we just want to line this up with that board, make a mark. I mark both sides so I make sure I keep it straight here. And mark across. And it's just a matter of cutting that off flush with that side. Just like that. You know, this step was kind of fun putting the epoxy on here because it just gives you an idea how cool that wood's going to look. You know, it looked, it's not bad when you first get it, but once you add that epoxy, that just comes to life. And by alternating the colors like that too, it just turns out awesome. Love it. Okay, next we just need to secure this so it'll be in place. What you do is you put every 6 inches or so along here, we're going to put some screws in here. And that won't be seen in the final product because what you're going to do is, these are just kind of temporarily holding it in there so you don't have to have the clamps on here. As you shape this, we'll pull the screw out, you know, as we need to. And that way you'll be able to shape this into that V shape that we need. And you just take them out one at a time, and then after you go past, you can put it back in. And those will get taken out before the final product, but they're just kind of holding everything until you get the whole form glued up. So we'll just continue and put those in, and that'll help hold everything together. Okay, I've got this just clamped on here now with that top exactly flush here, clamped in. I've also aligned it so it's perfectly plumb with this form. So at this point, we're just going to put a couple screws in here. If I can get into here somewhere, let's go right there, I guess. It's only a 1/2 inch particle board, so it's not going to be real easy to get to. Yeah, I just drilled right into my clamp too there a little bit. That's all right. That will hold. Do another one down at the bottom here. Okay, now we can take the clamp off and we're all set. So then down at the other end here, let me turn you a little bit here. Down here now, you can see how this is just wobbly. What I'm going to do is take this board. This is some of the packing material that came with the crate. I'm going to fasten this on here, cut a little slot into it, fasten it on just to support this end, and that'll just keep that from wobbling around on me. It would probably work this way, but it'd be really hard to work on, so that'll make it a lot easier. Now I just have to repeat at the other end, do for the stern. One more very important thing to remember too, as you get these little tail pieces put on here, that they need to be in alignment. Remember how we took such care to get all those lines all lined up down that boat. You want to make sure this is also the same in that same alignment. If it's not, when you paddle, you're going to be going in circles and it's going to look really goofy going just even on your car going down the road. So make sure you get those lined up really nicely. So now we have a dilemma. We've got red cedar. We've got this darker stuff, which is the walnut. We've got white cedar. Different combinations, mostly red. But these other two are going to be used for, color patterns, how we could change what the striping looks like down the boat, all that stuff. So I'm at a stuck point right now where I'm trying to figure out what my pattern needs to be. But while we're down here, I just cut a little piece of this material right here, which is just a profile of that. If you can kind of see, one end is rounded. That end is rounded. The other end, if we flip it over, you'll see is coved. So each one of these is going to fit together. We got a rounded edge here, cove there. What that does is that lets you fit it together and also angle up and down just a little bit as you go, on the boat. It's going to keep that nice joint as you go. So that's the one nice thing about buying this as a kit is these are all done for you. Because routing all these little edges would just be a pain in the butt. I would hate it. So that's the part I skipped. So when you're putting this on the boat, you're going to put it cove side up. The reason being is it's a lot easier to get glue to stay in that cove. So you're going to put a little bead of glue along there to put the next piece on. It's a lot easier to put it in a cove section than a convex section. It could just run right off there. It doesn't take a whole lot of glue. All you're doing is really kind of tacking this together. It's not structural because the fiberglass is going to sandwich it on both sides, and that's what's going to hold it together eventually. So I will just lay here for a while and try to figure out what my pattern is going to be. All right, so I think I figured out a plan of what to do. So I went on the website and I took that photo that they have of the spring run, which is the one I'm making. That's the one I'm making. I'm making the spring run long, as they call it. So it's the longer version of it. And I've got that, I got that printed out. And then I traced it so I'd have an outline of what it should look like. And I wanted to have this kind of a turtle theme on here. So I went on the web and found this picture, which I thought was kind of cool. And I said, okay, what can I do with that? So I'm going to try to do, I'm not sure if I'm going to do the turtle as an inlay or just a stain or a paint on the surface to do these. Either way would work. So I've got a couple different options on what that could look like. This one actually I kind of like because I'm using the hatch as the body of the turtle, and then the legs just stick out from there, which is kind of cool. So we'll see what we get to when we get to that point. But I have I've counted up how much of the materials I have of each length of each strip. And I measured at station 9, which is the biggest one. I've got 30 inches of length from waterline to waterline, basically. And then for the top of it, I've got 26 inches from top to top. So it equates to 53 strips on the one side and 46 on the other. Total of 99. So to get around that circumference, basically 100 pieces. Each strip is 9/16 wide. It says it's a ½ inch, but what you really see there, by the time you do that cove and everything, it's actually just a little wider than a ½ inch. So it's going to take 99 to go around that. Obviously, I don't have that many pieces here, but what happens is that's the widest point. As you get to the end of the boat, you've got a lot of spots where, it's tapering in, it's coming in. So, in this middle section, strip's only going to fit from here to here, and then another short piece from here to here. And as you go around these edges, even so, you're going on an angle, so or a radius, I should say. So it will work out. Now I'm just going to figure out the striping pattern that I want to do. Most of it's going to be the light red color. But I think I might do the whole deck with the white, the whole top part with that white. I think would look kind of cool. On the website, you can see this one that's on the bottom here. They did the whole top of it with white. I think I just do the inside section of it, but accents like that look pretty cool, so we'll see. Hey, back again. I've got a plan for what to do with the wood now. And I did want to clarify what I said in the last little segment there. This wood here is not walnut. It is just the heartwood cedar. It's the dark red cedar versus the lighter red cedar and then the white cedar. So anyway, in case you were going to correct me, I've already done it. So this is what I came up with for my plan. I told you I drew up the hull and kind of measured, the top and the bottom portions of it, which is actually upside down because that's how it's being built right now. We're going to build the hull first. That was about 30 inches, so I've got 15 strips to put into the water line. And then what I did is I just did a little color code here so I can transfer these marks onto the boat. So I've got the green dashes are going to be the darker wood, and then the skip spots are going to be the white. So along the side of the boat, I'm going to have like a dark white stripe. And then for the whole bottom will all be just the plain red cedar, and the whole top will be all the plain red cedar. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to do that pattern on the top of it. And I think having a constant color all the way across there will make the pattern for the turtle tracks and everything look really cool. Anyway, that's my rationale. And I'm going to go ahead and start getting these strips on the boat now. Exciting stuff.